With the India-New Zealand Test series starting tomorrow, there's just one question on top of everyone's mind. Can Ajaz Patel do it again? But more seriously though, the question is about India's dominance, or whether they continue that dominance at home, or do they take it even a step further like we saw in that second test against Bangladesh. So remember, this New Zealand side lost only 1-0 the last time they toured, and they even managed a draw, and also saw Ajaz Patel taking that 10 for. But remember also that that New Zealand side was arguably stronger, and this Indian side this time is stronger than the one we had that time. So what are you expecting from that series, Ayaz?
Well, I mean, look, it's a great series to have before the tour of Australia. So from India's point of view, this is a far stiffer test than they had against Bangladesh, and they would hope that they will be actually challenged. I know it seems a little ironical to say that. I think that Rohit Sharma, Gautam Gambhir and the rest of the team will want to be tested, perhaps far more seriously than they experienced against Bangladesh, which came all too easy. I'm not saying that it was a cakewalk. India had to fight hard in the second test to make a match of it, but they did it in convincing style. And now I think New Zealand, much like most teams that have come to India, haven't been able to do much in terms of results when they were here. So yes, you mentioned Ajaz Patel taking 10 wickets in an innings, which is a marvelous record, amongst the rarest of the rare stats that you can think of in this format. But having said that, they are without Kane Williamson for the first match at least. And, when you look at their track record in India, it isn't very much more impressive than what other teams have suffered when they play India in India. I mean, 18 test series wins on the trot. So that's a fabulous record. And it just shows the heft and the depth that India have when they're playing at home. But as I mentioned earlier, I think India will look for, will look to get some more evidence that they have run into terrific form in some areas. For instance, they need more runs from somebody like Virat Kohli, test match runs. Mohammad Shami is in there, so a little more expected from Mohammad Siraj. I don't know how many matches he'll get to play. The other pace bowlers, apart from Jasprit Bumrah, all of which is aimed at how they will fare in Australia. So in that sense, it's in a sense not a dress rehearsal, but it's one of the important ways to gather momentum for the tour of Australia, which happens in December.
So yeah, staying with Test cricket, the second Test between England and Pakistan is underway as we speak, but there is no Babar Azam, Shaheen Shah Afridi or Naseem Shah. Now, I know I asked that desperate times call for desperate measures and all that, but where do you stand on them dropping Babar Azam?
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate to see somebody like Babar Azam dropped. I'm not, Shaheen Shah Afridi hasn't really been, in the best of form for a while. Neither had Babar, but Babar was looked a really high quality player till recently. And yes, there's so much riding on Babar and Shaheen Shah Afridi and Naseem Shah, the three big stars who've been dropped, and especially Babar, who's been former captain. But I think that the real problem for Pakistan lies in the administration or the maladministration. I think enough people who are there now have said it, or those who are not even from the establishment, Pakistan cricket establishment, people like Nasir Hussain, Michael Atherton, who are there with the commentary team, broadcast team now in Pakistan, they've been talking about it. So it became an issue for the selectors, because Babar hadn't been getting runs for a long while, and then with every failure, it just kind of piled on the pressure on him as a batsman and on all the others, because he was not delivering the goods. And then the selectors also started feeling the pressure. But I must just say this here, and I think this has been, we've mentioned this earlier, Anirudh, that they've had multiple captains, multiple selectors, changes in the head of the PCP, etc., etc. It's just become kind of it's almost, Pakistan cricket has become farcical. So in that sense, one feels a little sorry for Babar Azam, because he is more than, one thing is to be rested, for you to, do not feel the heat, get your bearings back and come back. But here, in many ways, he seems to have become almost like a fall guy, because with nobody else performing in the team, they picked on the guy who probably look the best equipped still to lead them out of this, out of this dark hole. Be that as it may, he's not there in this match. So now we'll have to wait and see how the Pakistan cricket story unfolds from here.
Yeah, they seem to be doing quite okay right now as we speak. I think they're 150 for 2. But lastly, we'll move on to the Women's T20 World Cup. India have been knocked out after a close loss to Australia and Pakistan losing to New Zealand. But and there has been a lot of social media backlash, especially in the light of the BCCI's pay parity policy. But we won't get into that unnecessary mess. What I'll ask you instead is, Ayaz, did the women just have one really bad game against New Zealand, or were the expectations just simply too high?
I mean, the expectations were high, and they would be high. I mean, that is something they have to come to expect now, because they are big stars. I mean, Smriti Mandhana, Harmanpreet Kaur, Jemima Rodrigues, and Shefali Verma, and so on and so forth. Deepti Sharma. The team has been doing well. The nemesis has been Australia. I think they got off to a very sluggish start, and they could never recover. Losing to New Zealand first up was a big blow, and after that, even the match against Pakistan, they really struggled. So I mean, that showed the lack of preparation. Now that becomes, I think, unpardonable from a player's point of view, certainly, because their reputations are at stake, and there's so much riding on the Indian cricket team for the advancement of women's cricket. So in that sense, yes, and little unfortunate, the tournament got shifted from Bangladesh to UAE, whether they had enough time to adjust or not, and so on. But these are things you have to take into cognizance. You have to take it into your stride. And I don't think they played really well. Against Australia too, they had their moments. But as has happened so often in the past against Australia, they just seemed, when it's within touching distance, a win, they ended up losing the match. So this is it's not a happy development, but I won't be outright condemnatory. I think, look, at the end of the day, when you look at it in totality, women's cricket, and especially Indian women's cricket over the last, the big strides, the giant strides have come in the last 4-5 years. So one has to be a little patient as spectators and as followers of the game. But where the players themselves are concerned, I think they really need to pull up their socks, because you can't keep making the same, or raising the same issue again and again. Oh, but we did quite well, but we had hard luck. I don't think that counts for much at the highest or the elite level.
Yeah. So as I said in the beginning, the India-New Zealand test starts tomorrow, and we'll come back to you right after the first match. So yeah, that's it for this episode of Sports Room. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Andrew. Take care. Cheers.